Hey everybody, it's Micah from the Scoop Slam podcast, and I just wanted to give you guys a little precursor before this episode. Raw and Dynamite was recorded on Thursday before the Vince McMahon retirement stuff came out. So if you kind of hear us say it was slow news week or something like that, that was the reason why. It ended up being one of the most newsworthy weeks in wrestling history. But like I said, we recorded early, so just pay that no mind. By the time we got to SmackDown, we did obviously know by then, so we talk about it a little bit. We did record an episode previously talking about the Vince McMahon stuff, so go check that out now because we released it before this episode. And as well as that, the end of the SmackDown recording and our Death Before Dishonor predictions got cut, so it was too late to go back and record it. So we just dealt with some technical difficulties this week. Hopefully everything will run smoothly next week. But I just wanted to let you guys know before you get into it. Anyways, thanks for checking us out. I hope you enjoy this episode.
This is the Scoop Slam Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Scoop Slam Podcast. I'm your host, Micah Malden, and today we're going to be going over some rather rotten wrestling this week. And I'm once again joined by my co-host, the man of the hour, but he will not retire like Leo Rush, Ryan McCree.
Yo, just ready to be scoop slam, Micah. Cause right now, the wrestling that I just watched, we gotta talk about it.
Oh, this was a rough week, and I really had high hopes going into it.
You had high hopes for this week, really?
I had high hopes for the Dynamite main event. Needless to say, I went a little bit. I went home a little disappointed.
Understatement. Big understatement. It was hot garbage. Hot garbage. Can't wait to talk about it. Can't wait to bury Dynamite this week. I'm really excited about that.
I might have to join you on the Raw being better than Dynamite this week. But
Okay.
well,
All right.
we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll run everything down and I'll process it.
Okay.
All right. So this was a pretty dry week in the rumor mill, to be honest with you. I really only have two things for you, and one is not even a rumor. One is just a question that I thought would be interesting to discuss. So for the first topic this week, it is rumored, and I believe Sean Ross Sapp broke the news that Kenny Omega is set to return pretty soon. What do you think about that?
Kenny. The show needs some star power back. AEW's been lacking, sorely lacking for a while now. Punk going out injured when he did, and Bryan Danielson going down, and the complete disappearance of Adam Cole. I know you're not a big fan of Adam Cole, but still the show it's been lacking. Omega can just add something to the show that's been missing for quite some time. So, it's good for AEW. A dub.
Yeah,
A dub for sure.
I agree. No Punk, no Danielson. Even like you said, I'm not high on Adam Cole, but he still feels like a star. And I said it last week, I'll say it again. I feel like this is the time to strike if you are AEW.
Oh,
Yeah,
God. Are they striking right now? They're striking out.
yeah. They just got hit with a roundhouse, and now they're looking up at the lights, and they don't know what to think.
We forgot to mention MJF. MJF.
Yeah, no,
Did you see
no
that? Did
MJF
you see
either.
that sign? Did you see that sign on Dynamite that said MJF needs to hire Stephen P. New? I popped for that.
No, I did not see that. I wish somebody had showed me that. That's so great. But yeah, in my mind, this is a good thing. I know Kenny's not everybody's favorite person, but you can't tell me that and I hate to say this because I do like Moxley, Kenny Omega is
Mm.
the last world champion that they had that felt like a world champion. Does John Moxley feel like a world champion right now?
Not when you're tagging with Wheeler Utah in the middle of the card. No, he doesn't feel like a world champion. What are they doing with Moxley? They had him wrestle Taka Michinoku last week, and this week he's tagging with Wheeler Utah. What? And he's going against the best friends, guys that should have been released a
Yeah.
year ago. Moxley, they're dropping the ball with him big time.
And see, I felt like Moxley was kind of owed a good reign because it is no fault of his own, obviously, but his reign was mainly during the pandemic. So, like, he didn't get those big crowd reactions and stuff like that. And he's over. I'll give him that. The people go
Yeah.
crazy for him. But for the past 2 weeks, he's been in the middle of the card. What went on last week?
Remember with Takashi? He wrestled Takashi and they both bled in the middle of the card. You
No,
remember
I
that?
I remember him wrestling Takeshita, not Takashi. I remember him wrestling Takeshita in the middle of the card, but I don't remember what the main event for Dynamite was. Oh, it was that tag match, that horrible ending tag match.
That
Um,
you ripped apart for 45 minutes. I remember that.
I get that, but like, should Moxley not open the show
Or main
or
evented.
or at least main event it? Like, could Brody King and Darby Allin not have been in the middle of this show and had
I really
Moxley
like that.
open? It was
I
a good
really like
match.
that match with
We'll
Brody.
get to
Yeah.
it. But should it have opened over your world champion? Like, I, at least in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, if somebody goes from Big Bang Theory to this, because that's what always segues in, and you go, oh shoot, that's John Moxley. I remember him from WWE. I might tune in real quick. But if you see Brody King and Darby Allin, he's the world champion, and other than the
Doesn't
1 week
feel
Punk was there, I don't think he's felt like one yet because he's stuck in this random other. He was in the Blood and Guts match. Okay, I mean there was 18 people in that. He then fought Takeshita, which was a good match. Don't get me wrong, but it was in the middle of the card. And this week he teaming with Wheeler Yuta versus the Best Friends, two job guys and one mid card guy that just got pulled from the job group.
under mid card. But why? Where's his? Why are they not building a feud for Moxley? Because Punk is nowhere near coming back. Right? He's out. He's out. He's gonna be out for a while. Why are they not building up a feud for Moxley?
Because Death Before Dishonor is right around the corner, and Tony Khan cannot build up two promotions at the same time, apparently. If he's got one thing, he is very tunnel vision to me. Like right now, he's building up Death Before Dishonor, and I understand that's the closest thing that is up next. That's your big pay-per-view coming up for Ring of Honor. What is on AEW television right now? Is Ring of Honor not more interesting than AEW right now? Look at all the matches that are going to be on there. FTR and Briscoes 2 out of 3 falls. Right now, from what I can remember, that first FTR Briscoes match is my match of the year. When we get later in the year, we'll evaluate it and stuff like that. We'll have a yearly awards. But
It was a great match.
right now, that's at least in my top 3, if not number 1. Samoa Joe and Jay Lethal, gonna be great. They always have great matches. I'm not high on Gresham, but him and Claudio will be solid. I know you're not big on Wheeler Yuta or Daniel Garcia, but they're kind of the same, I guess, level, and I think that'll be a really good match. So, what's
It's
interesting on AEW television right now?
but Micah, they're building up. They're not building up the whole feud. Like, okay. Let's just take for example FTR versus the Briscoes. The Briscoes haven't been on AEW television. They're building it up one way. Same thing with Gresham and Claudio. Gresham was on the show, but he did a 30-second clip promo. And then who else we got? Who else you say is on that? Oh, Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe. He ain't been on the show in months. What if they're building up ROH's pay per view? They're doing a half baked job of it.
Nah, I mean, I completely agree. I'm just saying it's more of a build than anything in AEW right now. Like, truly, what feuds are going on right now other than the Eddie Kingston, Chris Jericho stuff, and we'll get to that because I guess it's still going on.
Yeah, it's not over.
But
We're still going.
I mean, Starks and Hobbs versus Lee and Swerve. But if you watch Dynamite, it really kind of looked like maybe that's over with.
Yeah, Danhausen's entered the mix.
Poor Ricky Starks, man. But so I really think to tie all this back together, I think that Kenny Omega is a good addition to this roster. He's going to be somebody who feels like a main event star to me because he is the last like AEW world champion that I was like, yep, he's a champion.
And he's a homegrown guy too. He's a homegrown guy. Hopefully, when they put him back on the show, he'll stop booking the women's division because oh my God, Jesus Christ, what is
Ooh,
going on in the women's division? What it? Okay, well, never mind. I'll save it for later.
it's barren at the moment,
I
and
wanted to, yeah, because I wanted to point something out to you about the women's division.
okay,
But we'll
but
get there. We'll
yeah, I'm
get
about to say keep that in your mind. We'll get there in a little bit, but I think we can both agree that Kenny adds something to the show that is direly needed right now. So next up, like I said, the rumors were kind of, I mean, it just was kind of dry this week. That was really it that I can remember. But next up, I just got a question for you. If you could be front row at any wrestling event in any period of time, no matter if you were born or anything, just any pay-per-view show, match, anything, which event would you go to and why?
there. Uh, you go first. You go first.
Um, it's really tough to me because there's a lot of moments you could say, like say from the Attitude Era, um, like being there when Mick Foley got thrown off the cage. That would be that would be crazy to be like I was there and saw that live, or to say you were there for the first Hell in a Cell with Shawn Undertaker and Kane's debut. But stacked cards, um, I mean, you've honestly probably got to say what WrestleMania 17, 18, or 19. That's what I would.
Oh, those were stacked.
From a close distance standpoint, I would probably say that Atlanta, Georgia show with Hogan versus Goldberg. That would have been pretty
Mm.
good to be at. But I would probably say now was 19 was
19 was in Seattle. Yeah, that was in Seattle. It had Brock versus Kurt, had Hogan versus Vince, and Rock versus Austin. That was a stacked card.
I would probably have to say that one. Now
Yeah,
18
that.
was Hogan versus Rock, wasn't it?
Yeah, that did, but that whole card didn't stack up to 19 or 17. 18 was 18 kind of the main event was kind of buns because you had Jericho and Triple H and the crowd was dead. The build was kind of trash because they were feuding over Stephanie and Triple H's dog, and then
Yeah.
Chris Jericho was treated like a like a like he was a mid carder throughout the whole feud. It was weird, man.
I forgot about that. I forgot that that match went on last. I always think Hogan and Rock went on last. I would probably have to say 19, honestly, just because, I mean, let me pull it up real quick, but running down the card, you really can't ask for more star power, even looking back at like the stars of who were coming up with like Edge and Christian and the Hardys. Well, hold on. I'm looking at it now. 19 might not be the one I'm thinking of. I might be thinking of 17. Hold on.
Oh yeah, 17 had Rock versus Austin as the main event. They had Chris Benoit versus Kurt Angle. You had the Hardys, Dudleys, Edge and Christian, TLC two. Uh, think you had Big Show, Kane, Raven, and a triple threat hardcore match. It was a great show, but I think 19 had more star power.
Yeah. To compare, because I also kind of feel like your answer is going to be one of these. Now I could be wrong. The
All right.
the 17 WrestleMania Started with Jericho versus Regal for the Intercontinental title. Taz and the APA versus Right to Censor. Kane defeated Raven and Big Show, like you said. Eddie versus Test. Kurt versus Benoit. China defeated Ivory. Shane defeated Vince. You got the Triangle Ladder match, which Edge and Christian would end up winning. Um, the Iron Sheik. Oh, the gimmick battle royale. The Iron Sheik beat Hillbilly Jim. Undertaker defeated Triple H. Stone Cold defeated The Rock. Whew. Man, that's a stacked card. Like Angle versus Benoit, the Triangle Ladder match, Taker versus Triple H. Even though it's obviously not their best match, but
It was good.
yeah. I mean, just the ones they had at 27 and 28.
Or better, yeah.
Yeah,
But
and then
19 didn't have a shortage of stars either.
yeah, 19 starts off Matt Hardy defeated Rey Mysterio. The Undertaker defeated Big Show and A Train. That's not one of the best Undertaker streak matches.
I think Nathan Jones was supposed to be in that match, but they
It
pulled him.
says, yeah, he was Undertaker with Nathan Jones defeated. So I guess he was managing because it was a handicap
No.
match.
Okay, so I remember this because I think I was watching back then. Okay, so Nathan Jones and Undertaker were a tag team going into the match, and then earlier on Heat that night, they filmed the angle where the Big Show and A Train beat up Nathan Jones and took him out the match, and then he ends up popping back up halfway through the match and roundhouses Big Show or A Train, I forget which one, and the Undertaker picks up the victory. But supposedly, if you follow the dirt sheets, it was because Nathan Jones was so green that he could not handle being in front of 60,000 people in a marquee match at one of the biggest shows of the year.
I completely forgot about him like existing.
Oh, I didn't. That whole period of Nathan Jones, you had Matt Morgan, you had just big guys with no personality or no in-ring ability, but they were jacked to the gills. Heidenreich, Snitsky, guys like that, man. I miss guys like that. You had a lot of guys like that back then that just was there for a year and then you forget about them.
Yeah. I do remember Snitsky though. Then you had Team Angle, Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin defeated Chris Benoit and Rhino and Los Guerreros. Shawn defeated Chris Jericho. That's such a great match, man. I love that match. Um, Triple H defeated Booker T. Wrong,
Mm,
wrong
mm,
decision.
mm. It was pretty boring match.
Yeah. Hulk defeated Mr. McMahon. The Rock defeated Stone Cold, and Brock defeated Kurt Angle. I would probably have to pick 17, me personally, just because of the Triangle Ladder match. And like, I love the Hardys. You still see Stone Cold and The Rock, Undertaker versus Triple H, Angle versus Benoit. But then again, I mean, the Attitude Era ended with 19. And it kind of lost some of its appeal to, well, I say that, not that it would take away from it at all, but I'm saying now that Stone Cold has come back, it's not like, well, that's the last time you saw Stone Cold.
Yeah, that's true, but come on, man, that was his last match.
Oh yeah, I
19 was his,
mean,
19 was his last match. We don't count the Kevin Owens match. Come
yeah.
on. That's like
So
saying The Rock's last match was with Eric Rowan. You can't count that.
I forgot about that.
I didn't forget about
um,
that.
so I would say 17. What about you?
Uh, okay, so the moments thing, I would want to be there for a moment standpoint for WrestleMania 3, Hogan slamming Andre, because just the iconic status of it and 100,000 people in the Silver Dome.
Yeah,
That's you can't. That was peak. That's peak wrestling popularity. I mean, the Attitude Era was had a lot of people watching, but there was way more people watching at the peak in the 80s. I think the highest rated wrestling segment still is Hogan versus Andre on Saturday night's main event. So you can't really beat the WrestleMania 3 moment. But from a card standpoint, I'm gonna surprise you, Micah. Because this is, I'm sure you weren't expecting me to say ECW One Night Stand 2005. That card on paper does not stack up to WrestleMania 19, yes, but the crowd was so hot for that whole show, and there was no bad matches on that card, and it was just a big ECW nostalgia trip. I was really big into ECW at the time because I just bought some ECW best compilations on DVD, and so I was so hyped to see that show, and I wish I could have seen it up close in the first row. That show, that show's amazing. If you ain't watched it, man, go back and watch that show.
Yeah. I mean, I see your point. I forgot. Well, not saying I forgot about that. I meant to say I definitely did not expect that from you. To run down the card, we had Lance Storm versus or defeated Chris Jericho. Super Crazy defeated Lil Guido and Tajiri with James Mitchell. Rey Mysterio defeated Psychosis. Sabu defeated Rhino. Chris Benoit defeated Eddie Guerrero. Mike Awesome defeated Masato Tanaka. And the Dudley Boys defeated the Sandman and Tommy Dreamer.
That was a man. That card is that card. Just watch that show, man. And the crowd is electric for the whole night. It's a sight to
Yeah.
see. I've never seen a hotter crowd, and it's only what 2,000 people in the Manhattan Center. It's not a big crowd, but everybody's on their feet the entire night. And even they even got copyrighted music for the show. Sandman entered to enter the Sandman, like for his entrance. They never do stuff like that. They actually had licensed music on the show, and it
Yeah.
was just so much different than the WWE product at the time. I kind of got watered down when they did the next year reunion show, and then they had WWE CW for 4 or 5 years after that. It was not the same. But for that one time in 2005, they got it right. It was an absolute ECW show. No WWE. It felt like no WWE affiliation at all for that show. It was great, man. I love that show. Favorite pay per view of all time is that.
2,500 is the attendance in the Hammerstein Ballroom.
It felt like 25,000, man. It was electric
Yeah,
that
that's
whole night.
probably one of the, like you said, probably the best crowds I've ever seen. I mean, it. You could have said and done anything, and it would have been over. I mean, just
Yeah.
anything was hot that night, and like them. Now, I always get them confused. Is that the one where like the Raw brand was up in the stands and they
Yeah,
were just like, yeah,
yeah, it was. Yeah,
they
it was.
were dogging Edge, man.
And then Heyman dogged him too. He could have promo on him and JBL. He shot on both of them. And Heyman was treated like Jesus Christ when he walked into that building. It was man. That's Go back and watch that, man.
Yeah. I haven't watched it in a long time, but I do remember it being,
Great
whew,
show.
yeah.
Great show. Oh, and Bash at the Beach '96. I would want to be there for that too.
Yeah, I can't imagine watching, like, me going back and watching all the 96 stuff. I know what happens, but even watching it back, just seeing, like, the reaction from some of the people, you're like, I, I could
Iconic.
not imagine in my mind not being able to
Iconic.
expect that.
Those people were PO'd, man. So much trash in the ring. And then Hogan, because of an epic promo at the end, it was, man, that was a great time. Great time.
Yeah. All right. Well, like I said, not much rumors, but I did like the discussion. I saw it on Twitter and thought that was a cool question to ask.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
good question, man. Good question.
so now we'll get to the not so good cards of the current
Mm,
week of wrestling. Um,
mm.
oh boy, we'll open up with Raw, as did Titus O'Neil, global ambassador, and he talked about how good the WWE is and that they are inclusive to everybody and that they would never talk about divisive topics such as race and religion and politics. Um, This was odd. This was so odd. In a world where we've had characters like Muhammad Hassan and The Undertaker, Mordecai, um, and I'm still probably missing,
Vince versus God.
yeah, um, you could even bring up the Roddy Piper thing at WrestleMania.
The Mexicools riding out on lawnmowers.
Yeah, I like the WWE, and I know they're like, washed clean or whatever, or they try to act like they are. And I know this was a look just to make themselves look better with all this stuff coming out about Vince. But like they basically told Titus O'Neil, all right, go out there and lie to everybody and just make sure you throw in Welcome to Monday Night Raw.
It was very odd. The placement was odd. If this was in hour two, on the third segment of hour two, I wouldn't have think of anything of it. But this open Raw. This open Raw. Titus O'Neil was sent out there. Come on, let's be honest. He was out there to babyface the company. And just because the heat's getting turned up on Vince at this point, because I've been hearing that they're working on more stories about what's going on with the situation with Vince. More NDAs are being discovered. And so they sent poor old Titus O'Neil out there. And I mean, I like Titus, man. But hey, come on, man. This is the opening segment of Raw. What happened to starting out hot? Now we starting out with advertisement about your philanthropy. Very
Yeah.
weird.
Could they have not like asked the USA Network, hey, can we come on 5 minutes earlier or something? Or like I this is just odd placement, odd like everybody can see through this. You know what I mean?
Titus is a good dude.
Yeah, I mean, I like Titus. I'm not saying anything is wrong with him. I think he just got shackled with the crap. He got the crap into the stick, being the one that had to go out there and say all this.
Yeah, I mean, but he is the global ambassador. When did how is Titus O'Neil global ambassador? What did he do? Is just because he's good with the charities and stuff like that? I would think like Stephanie would be the global ambassador.
I think I would have rather had her come out here and say this. It's different if like I don't know.
No. Stephanie would have got booed, man. Come on.
I don't know. They should have got somebody else. But to have like a former wrestler do it, I don't know.
Why didn't John Cena cut this a couple weeks ago? That probably
Yeah,
would have been. It probably would have been reacted to better instead of that. Yeah. What was the point of that John Cena segment? He just came out, just said hello, and then he built to a SummerSlam match. That was a waste of time.
yeah, and they hyped it for weeks too. I thought it was gonna be him in theory. But an odd start to an odd program. We'll keep moving on. Becky Lynch comes out to cut a promo after all that praise that I gave her last week. This was weird and just bad. I don't understand what she was trying to like convey here. She was using train analogies and rhymes, and this just did not work for me. This was so scripted and so handed straight to her, over the top. Um, Bianca came out and saved this somewhat, saying
Yeah.
she was going to redeem herself, and I liked the Bianca part of the promo. I thought it was better than the Becky stuff. Again, shockingly, after what we said about Becky last week.
Yeah.
And then she made a caboose joke and a choo choo at the end, and then Carmella's music hit, and that's when I knew I was not watching the rest of this.
Oh man, you skipped this.
I skipped the Carmella end of this. Once I heard Bianca say choo choo, I was like, no.
Oh man. So you didn't watch the match, or you just didn't finish the segment?
Nope, I didn't watch the match. It was a rematch from last week. I didn't watch it last week. You know what the result's going to be. Bianca's going to win.
The match. It was okay. I mean, it wasn't a bad match. It was just
It's just a Carmella
telegraphed.
match.
Yeah, and it was the same match they had last week. There was no difference. If you would have put on last week's match, did they wrestle last week? Yeah, if you put on last week's match, I would not have been able to tell a difference. Maybe besides the gear they were wearing. That's it.
So No, I did not watch this. I was not interested. I will watch Becky and Bianca at SummerSlam because I imagine that'll be good. But I'm not watching Carmella. Her record, I'm pretty sure I seen on Twitter the other day. Her record is like 2-9. Why is she getting a WWE Championship opportunity?
Well, hold up now. I mean, wins and losses don't matter.
I mean, I know, but like Carmella's a job.
Okay,
Like,
all right, but okay, Becky was good on commentary.
well,
That's
I
that's
wouldn't
about
know
it. Yeah, you didn't miss much.
it. Next up, the Street Profits were in the back. They cut a pretty decent promo about how they were going to turn Nashville into Cashville when Double J counts the 1, 2, 3, and they become the new undisputed tag team champions. Omos and MVP interrupt, and Dawkins proceeds to challenge Omos and MVP to a tag match. But MVP said, nah, I think I'll hold off on that. I'm going to ask Adam Pearce about a singles match. This was okay. Again, I think Dawkins kind of impressed me here because this was the first time I've heard him on the mic, and it actually wasn't that bad. Ford is still obviously the Shawn of this group to me, but
Yeah,
Dawkins cut a
absolutely.
decent promo.
Yeah, Dawkins, but he's all right. He's all right. He has no shot at all if they get split up, but in the tag team they work well together. They're way better than Private Party on the other channel. I hate when people compare those two.
The gimmicks are similar. I'm not going to deny that,
How?
but
Say okay. How they similar? How?
they both they both come out in like pretty much the same thing. Like their Private Party wears the Brooklyn Nets jerseys. The
Okay.
Street Profits wear the Miami Heat or the Chicago Bulls or whatever. They both come out with cups, and one of them
Do they?
they
I thought
yes,
I didn't know I didn't know the Private Party did that.
yeah, they at least from what I remember, they come out with cups, and their song just says shots, 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 and Street Profits is pretty much the same thing. It just says we want the smoke. And I mean, I like the Street Profits better than I do Private Party, but let's be honest, the gimmicks are a little similar.
I've never heard Private Party cut a promo, so I don't know how. I never liked that comparison.
I mean, I'll give you that. I like I said, I would take the Street Profits over Private Party, but it's just a little similar to me.
Yeah,
But
and Montez is definitely going to be a star. I'm seeing what you're seeing. I didn't give it that much credit last week, but he's going to be that guy, and he's still pretty young. Montez, he has all the tools, man. I could
yeah,
even give him a pass for that lame name he has, Montez Ford.
he's definitely good in the ring and on the mic. He's got charisma, and he looks. I mean, he's bulked up. Everything about him to me, even like I remember a few months ago when I necessarily wasn't watching Raw consistently, that spot he did where he dove like over the turnbuckle to the outside, I always thought that was cool because it was innovative.
Freak athlete, and his facial expressions are really good. I saw the match, and we're skipping ahead a little bit, but the match, I think he hit almost with a frog splash. Well, he almost kicked out at one, and the look that Ford gave, it was great, man. He sold it. He sold it perfectly.
I agree. Like I said, good promo from them. MVP in them. I mean, MVP's good on the mic. Almost is, and I know they're trying to get MVP to carry him through this because he needs a mouthpiece, but
He does.
we'll see where this goes. I'm not high on MVP and Omos, and I really don't. I don't like this like three-way feud they have going, or like why Omos is with the Bloodline all of a sudden. But I mean, I go to pass.
Almost doesn't have anything to do for SummerSlam, so maybe I guess attach him to this.
I mean, maybe if you had him like face R-Truth, I know that's not like a huge match, but you could at least put it on the pre-show.
We ain't gonna watch that.
Next up, You asked last week where Kevin Owens was. We found him. He opens up the Kevin Owens show and just kind of talks about, he's back. He's got the show and he's going to introduce Riddle. And I let Riddle get to the ring. And I was like, I'm gonna I'm gonna give this a chance. After what I said last week, I'll give this a chance. And then he said, "Well, you promised me a Baja Blast, so where's it at?" And I skipped it.
Oh, come on, man. You're way too harsh on Riddle, man. Way too harsh on Riddle. Did you see that pop he got? You saw that pop he got? The crowd loves him.
I understand that, but I cannot stand him. He is my least favorite thing about this show. I would rather watch that Bianca Carmella match.
So you didn't watch this segment?
No, I'm sorry. Like,
Come on, man. I want you to see Kevin Owens.
I know.
Have you ever heard him cut a promo?
Yeah, I remember when Kevin Owens debuted against John Cena.
That was 7 years ago. You didn't watch him in 7 years?
Mm,
Man, you're dogging Riddle out for no reason here. Kevin Owens and him worked well together. And Kevin Owens in this segment was really, really good. Everything he said, it sounded like he was saying it. It didn't sound like a writer was scripting anything. I hope they're giving him more creative freedom now that he's graduated to the main event scene since he had Steve Austin's last match.
I mean, yeah, you can say they work well together. You can also say that Triple H and Eugene worked well together in 2004, but that still don't mean I want to see the segment.
Jeez, come on, man.
I I just can't do it. So, what did you think about this at least?
I like the segment. Owens is good. I got a soft spot for Riddle. Not much else to say about it. It was a segment. It built up. It built up the feud for SummerSlam with Riddle and Rollins.
I did see the Seth promo after, so I kind of got the gist of probably what was going on. Because after this, it cuts backstage with Seth, and he's asked why he attacked Riddle in the ring, and it said, and I'm sorry, he said because gum, hold on. Next, we were backstage with Seth, and he's asked why he's attacking Riddle. He says that it's because Riddle is so stupid that he can. Jesus, can I talk? Backstage with Seth, he's asked why he's attacking Riddle, and he said it's because Riddle is so stupid that he thinks that he can beat Seth, and that Randy is actually his friend, and he thinks that Randy's just covering up his true feelings. Then, your boy who was all zeked up, he interrupts him asking what he thinks he's doing, attacking Riddle like that. And he says that he'll stomp Seth like Seth stomped Riddle and Elias and Elrod. This fires Zeke up, telling him not to talk about his family. Instead, do we want to keep going with this segment? Because I think I might be the Eugene right now.
Let's just move on. This segment happened. Zeke and Zeke had a promo with Seth. That was it. I will say this. I kind of hope next week in MSG we get a Mick Foley appearance as a Dude Love, Cactus Jack, and Mankind, and we can get like a face off with Zeke, Elrod, and Elias. That'd be pretty cool.
The many faces of Zeke.
Yeah, yeah. Let's get that, man. Let's go all out with Zeke. I'm Zeked up. I love Zeke.
They can do worse. They did worse on this show, so I'll give you that. Damian Priest had a promo before the match. As the same thing as last week. Priest looks good. Um, I mean, they show the Edge clip every single week. I'm sick of seeing Edge, and he hasn't been on the show in like 2 months. Just from this clip, I don't want to see Edge.
What if they throw us a curveball and it's like, Bray,
I mean, maybe, but the stuff they've been showing, it's got to be Edge.
what about that? If is Edge coming back in at MSG next week, or are they just gonna have a 1 week build for this match? Because you got Damian Priest is gonna face Edge at SummerSlam, right? Is that what they're building to?
I would think, unless they're doing something with the Mysterios, maybe, but I would think that they're probably going to do something to the Mysterios next week, and Edge is going to be the savior or something. Like maybe they're going to beat up Ray, and then Dominic's fixing to join, and Edge comes out and saves them. I mean, I don't know, but I would think that the match going into SummerSlam is Priest versus Edge.
Or maybe like Edge and Ray versus Priest and Balor for SummerSlam.
I would be okay with that. I mean, Edge and Ray used to be tag champs, didn't they?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
they were tag champs. But please, for the love of all things holy, do not put Edge in the ring with Finn Balor for SummerSlam. That is the most unappealing match you could possibly do out of all those pairings. I do not want to see Balor on a one-on-one match, wasting Edge's last years.
I like Balor, but the more
He's
intriguing
trash.
match is definitely Priest.
Balor is trash. He can't talk, and he's 5'6".
The only problem is you just trash him every week. The only problem is the Judgment Day has never meant less than they do right now. And do you go ahead and blow this feud off at SummerSlam? I mean, I know it's kind of been building, but Edge hadn't been here, and I
There
don't.
ain't no way that's the end. There's no way that's going to be the end. If there is a match at SummerSlam, that's not going to be the end. They'll wrestle weekly for the next month after that and probably build up to 2 more pay-per-view matches. You know how this goes, Mike. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably see a rematch literally the next night, but we did see Ray versus Damian Priest. This was a good match. Um, I wasn't like super invested in it just because it's pretty much the same thing as last week, just swap Balor and Priest. Um, Priest picked up the win. His Razor's Edge, I'm not sure what he calls it, but it will always be Razor's Edge to me. That was
It looks gnarly.
disgusting. Yeah.
Gnarly. Ray's like 50 years old.
Yeah, I kind of felt bad because he landed straight on his neck. Like, well, it was like the upper back, but I was like, ugh.
He folded Ray, man.
I mean, it looked like it would hurt you. I'll give him that.
Rey Mysterio looks really good for his age.
Yeah, I'll give him that. He's just like 42 in my mind. I don't think he's as old as he is.
And when you look at Jeff Hardy, guy that had a similar style, I know they didn't. Jeff doesn't have like luchador style, but Jeff, compare him to Ray, it's like night and day, man. How does Ray still do this at 50
I don't
years
know.
old?
How old was Taker? Like, or like, what matches was Taker having at 50?
At 50, he was wrestling. He wasn't the same as when he was in his prime and like his early 40s, mid 40s. At 50, he was coming back from. I think he wrestled Bray right around that time, or had a match with Brock Lesnar back in like 2015. I think he was 50 around that time, but he was mobile, but certainly not 2009 Undertaker.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just crazy. Like, and obviously, I would say him and Jeff have different careers, considering like Ray never did the crazy stuff that Jeff did to me. But even watching his stuff in WCW, like the Hurricane Ranas to the outside and just crazy dives back in WCW, to look at him
Yeah.
now, he's pretty much still wrestling the same. And like you
Yes,
said, he ain't lost a step to me.
he debuted at 14. He was a teenager when he debuted in WCW. This man's been wrestling for 30 plus years, and he still has the same, pretty much the same style.
Has he ever had a serious injury either?
Oh, hit, yeah, yeah. He had a
He
bunch of knee
has.
injuries. A bunch of knee injuries.
You're right. I couldn't remember that, but yeah, that sounds familiar now. Let's see here. After the match, they were fixing to concerto Ray, and Priest grabbed a mic and said that the only way they won't do this is if Dominic joins the Judgment Day. So Dominic comes in, he's like, fine, fine, I'll do whatever to save my dad. And then Damien tells him, nah, it don't work that way, and then just beat the both of them up anyways.
They treated Dominic like a geek, man.
Yeah, he's again, like we said last week, he just don't connect with me.
They treat him like he's a kid. He's mid-20s. He's older than us. They
Yeah,
treat him like he's 15. How you gonna get a guy over if you treat him like that?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like when he first came in and they won the tag titles, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool or whatever. At some point, and I'm not even saying he necessarily has to join the Judgment Day, but like he needs to venture out and not be. He needs to be Dominic Mysterio, not Rey Mysterio's son. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. He needs to get away from Ray. Or I would like if Ray just managed him and then he just put the mask on and they have like a whole run down there in NXT. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. And I mean, he's good enough to me. And he went to NXT for what, like 1 or 2 weeks. He's good enough to me in the ring to like be in a NXT caliber show. But if you look at like him and Theory side by side, you're like,
Oof. Mm, not even close.
yeah. So then we go backstage. We cut to commercial. We come backstage with Priest and Finn Balor. Priest says that if Dominic was serious, he would have hit Ray with the chair himself. And they said next week at MSG, the Mysterios will fall and the Judgment Day will rise. So it is the 20-year anniversary of Rey Mysterio in the WWE. Imagine we'll see some shenanigans at play.
They're building up that show a lot. I like that.
Yeah, and I always love the Madison Square Garden shows. Next up, we had Omos versus Dawkins. Boy, this was a mess. The match starts, and I don't even think it went, 3 to 5 minutes, and it ended in DQ. And then Adam Pearce comes out and, is like, we're not going to stand for this. We're going to make it a tag team match now. So MVP and Omos were going to face the Street Profits, and MVP is in a suit. And I don't think there's any better wrestler in a suit than Jay Lethal, because he hit that lethal injection in a suit, and I have since been impressed. Um, the match was okay. I mean, again, the Street Profits are solid, almost, and MVP was in a suit. Yet we get to the end, and it still ended in a DQ because the Usos come out and attack the Street Profits. This was a waste of like 25 minutes for absolutely nothing.
I can't add anything to that, man.
That's what,
we,
like,
we invested 30 minutes of our lives, and then they ended in DQ twice.
I was dumbfounded. This probably would have been the worst booking decision of the week if we didn't have Dynamite.
Oh man, we should have got a sighting from Jeff. I know he's there. Why didn't he come out?
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Like, I mean, you got what, another week till SummerSlam? I don't know. I know we talked about it last week where you were like, the people might not know Jeff Jarrett, but I'm sure he would at least get some kind of pop and it would be like, holy crap, there's Jeff Jarrett or whatever. But I guess he's too busy busting Rick
He's there.
the hard way.
Yeah, he's got. Oh, man, wait. That was okay. Okay, all right. But yeah, Jeff is there, man. Just have him peek his head out from the curtain, get a little build between because there's no why is Jared the special guest referee? I know it's in Nashville, but shouldn't he have some involvement in this story throughout the lead up?
Yeah, I agree. again, it is kind of random other than it just being Nashville.
That's literally it.
Well, next up, we had a little bit of star power on this show. Um, Austin Theory comes out. You know, we're big on Austin Theory. Or Theory, I'm sorry. He comes out saying he's got some things he needs to address, talking about the following next 2 weeks, like at SummerSlam, and all the people around the WWE who are jealous of him. He promises he will become the U.S. champion and the undisputed champion all in the same night. Those what chants were killing him. And he tried to play into them, but I think it was getting to him.
I like that he addressed them. I don't like when they just not address the what chance because it doesn't sound natural when you just ignore the chance. You can't ignore the crowd. It makes it seem like you got a prepared speech out there. So I like when he addressed the what chance.
I mean, I like guys addressing it, um, like every now and then, but he did it 3 or 4 times in this.
Yeah,
It kind of, I was like, ooh. I mean, I know he's a heel, but they don't what Paul Heyman as bad as this. You know what I mean?
yeah.
This was a little bit like go away heat to me.
Oh man, come on now. Let's not go that far.
I
He's
mean,
not
I like Theory.
he's not Sammy Guevara out there. Come on now.
Oh man.
The fans still do care about Theory. It's just they wanted him out the building because at that point they were there for like 3 hours because they probably watched the the show before Raw and the crowd was a little restless. I think we're giving Theory a tough time with this one. He did fine for that segment.
Well, he then cites Dolph Ziggler and AJ Styles. There or no, I'm sorry, not AJ. He just talks about Dolph being jealous specifically due to his actions last week, and then AJ Styles interrupts. AJ says he's going to make a promise. He says that he's going to be the first one to take those belts off of Theory if he is so lucky to win them. Which I would be down for that to be a feud. I think AJ should be in the main event picture anyways, but let's waste him away on the mid card. He says that nobody in the back is jealous of Theory, and Theory goes on listing, youngest Money in the Bank winner, youngest United States champion, and he dogs AJ. What were you doing at my age? Oh, you were wasting away on the independents fighting in, what did he say? Just like fighting old men in like Georgia barns or something like that.
Fighting barefoot um, hillbillies in like barns or something. Yeah.
And then they kind of start jawing at each other a little bit. Theory calls him an old grizzled vet, and AJ punches him down. Dolph's music hits.
I know you popped.
And then we cut to commercial break.
It did.
I love my boy Dolph. I think him and Theory will have a good feud because they're both good on the mic to me, and I liked AJ in this segment. I know you kind of said on the phone they kind of jabroned him a little bit,
They did.
but I mean I like AJ. Obviously, I think he should be in the main event scene. Theory's next up, and Dolph's always good. Dolph's one of my favorites all time, so this was a good segment to me.
AJ has no feud going into SummerSlam. That's weird. He's one of their top stars. He has no feud going into SummerSlam.
I don't even know where you throw him in at. If you want to like rush something together real quick, do you throw him in the United States title match? Because like, where was Bobby Lashley on this show?
You know what? That might be what they're building to. Ziggler versus AJ versus Theory versus Bobby. That wouldn't be bad. I wouldn't mind that.
I I would tune into that. I mean, you've got four, maybe a little bit past star with Ziggler. I mean, obviously I'm still high on him, but you've got three main event caliber guys in that match who can go. I think it would be a good match.
Yeah, that'd be a good match. I wouldn't mind that actually.
After this, the match started between AJ Styles and Austin Theory. This was a good match, and like we can't heap enough praise on Theory, but AJ's always been good in the ring. Theory's good in the ring. And I would really like for this feud to keep going because I think Theory could learn a lot just from being in the ring with AJ Styles on the promos and everything like that. AJ is one of the best in the world today. I know he's kind of taking a little bit of a back seat right now, but you still can't deny that.
He's still so good. He's so good. Man is still probably top 5 in the world at this point.
I did kind of want to mute my TV during this because, and I know WWE is very much like about pronouns, pal, but like, oh my God, Corey Graves, it's the two thing, Theory and Seth freaking Rollins. I cannot stand to hear him say any of those on commentary because it's every sentence and he screams it.
Yeah, and they're doing that now with the Viking Raiders. They're calling them the new vicious Viking Raiders or something
Yeah,
like that. And they say it every single time when they refer to them.
they even came out last week on SmackDown and said we're new and we're vicious or something like that.
Yes.
It's
They hammer it into your head.
yeah,
They cannot end anything without saying the buzzwords. That gets annoying.
I very much agree. Theory started messing with Ziggler, who was outside. AJ comes out and he beats him up and throws him back in. So then, or I'm sorry, let me specify there. Pronouns, pal. AJ
Yeah.
comes out and Theory beats him up and throws AJ back in the ring. So then Theory starts jawing at Dolph, and Dolph super kicks him while the ref is turning around checking on AJ. And then Theory could not make it to the 10 count. AJ Styles wins by count out.
Flat finish, but that super kick was good. I love that super kick.
Yes, Dolph is so good, man.
It sounded like a gunshot.
Yeah. I know he's a little old. He's a little bit of a grizzled vet himself, but Dolph can still go, and maybe I'm a little biased because I've always liked Dolph, but I mean, is there any reason to not put him with Theory right now?
He ain't that old. I think he can. He probably still got a little main event run in him. Maybe not with
Yeah.
WWE, but he still got something in the tank.
I'm sure he would be a good AEW addition to come in for the first week and then be off TV for a month, but
The AEW special. Well, you got to add in the Jericho podcast.
me personally, I would like to see Dolph in AEW just to see maybe what he could do in a new environment. Because I mean, we kind of know the WWE potential. He's
Yeah,
reached his peak. Where is he gonna go now? I think you talked about that last week.
nowhere to go. Release these guys that have reached their ceiling with nothing else to do. And he's not on the main event level that like, you know how they treated like Shawn in his later years or Triple H in his later years. Ziggler, he's not at that level, so you can't treat him like that. So those mid
Yeah.
carders for life, that just cut them, man. What are they there for?
All right. So we open up with Miz TV, and Miz introduces Logan Paul, his proposed opponent at SummerSlam. And so Logan Paul comes out to a pretty good pop, not gonna lie. And then he comes out and asks the Miz if he accepts his SummerSlam challenge, cuts right to the chase. But Miz says that, first they should reminisce about their WrestleMania moment together. And they play the tape and whatever. Miz is still just as good to me as he was a few years ago. I haven't necessarily believed you when you said that, but this was solid on the Miz's part to me.
Yeah, Miz is the best. I'm not gonna say he's the best on the mic in the business, but he's definitely top 3. Just by the promos he cuts, always sounds like him. It doesn't sound like somebody's writing for him, and that's pretty much all you can ask for in the current WWE landscape.
Yeah, I agree. And he's just believable to me. I really wonder if they do make this jump to TV 14 and if they actually change anything. I wonder what he will be like because I think he could be somebody that improves from this.
Oh yeah,
Um, let's see. Miz says he led Logan through his match, and Logan's not ready, nor does he deserve a match against The Miz. And Logan starts talking about, I didn't have experience hosting a YouTube show and becoming an influencer, yet I became the most successful one. I had no experience in boxing, but I lasted, 8 rounds with Floyd Mayweather. And he says, I had no experience in wrestling, but I trained, won at WrestleMania, and I'm going to remain victorious at SummerSlam. And I was like, okay, I'm not huge on babyface Logan Paul, but maybe this is okay. And then he started cracking the balls jokes.
Mm, mm.
And the ball jokes are what made The Miz accept the challenge.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. It's been stupider ways to enter a feud. You remember when Booker T and I think it was Jericho feuding over a shampoo commercial? You remember that?
I do. Uh, I don't know, man. I don't love it going on last in the first place, and then to end it like this, and just to be like this, the reason that like the Miz goes to that next level, and then he is like, oh well, you know what? I just can't stand this. I'm gonna have to take you up on it now. I was like, it just kind of lost me on it, I guess, and
Yeah, but it wasn't technically the catalyst to the feud, the tiny balls joke, because they did have a run. The Miz turned on Logan Paul, so they had history. It's just the balls joke sent Miz over the top, which is not that bad. I mean, that could happen in real
like you said, I mean, there's been dumber ways to get into a feud, and there is something built up beforehand. But this just, I don't know. I mean, Logan Paul is good in the ring at WrestleMania, and
He's good on the mic
it's
too.
one of, yeah. I mean, he kind of looked like a deer in headlights at the beginning of this to me, but I think he recovered and it was fine. He grew on me a little bit, even though I can't stand him as a person. But it's kind of sad that this is one of the more interesting things going into SummerSlam, I think, despite all this.
Well, when you said you're surprised that this main evented, Logan Paul, I know you hate Logan Paul, but he is the biggest star on this show. So, is it really that far fetched that he would end the show? You know?
I mean, yeah, I see what you're saying. He is. I would like, and I know Instagram followers is not obviously the, be all end all, but I would say he probably has the most out of anybody in this. Maybe like Rey Mysterio. I don't even know if he has an Instagram, to be honest. But I guess just say social media following all around, I would probably say he is the biggest star. I don't love segments ending the show. To me, I would rather it be a match. That's just a personal pet peeve.
If it's a hot segment, like Austin spraying the beer truck with the McMahons, that's if they had a segment like that,
Yeah.
that could end the show, and I would have no problem with it.
Well, but that's chaos. So like that, oh my God, there's so much going on. We don't know what's gonna happen. We're running out of time. Catch us next week on Monday Night Raw. That's one thing, but
Okay, yeah.
I I don't know. It was just kind of a flat ending to me. We'll see where it goes. I'm at least a little intrigued by this match at SummerSlam, but this segment was not amazing to me.
And then Champa is still involved. I like that. I like they didn't forget about Champa.
Yeah, I like that he came out there. It's an odd pairing, but if it's getting Ciampa TV time, I'll take it.
And Miz is gonna make it work, man. As long as it's not Alex Riley, Miz is gonna make it work.
Oh man, yeah, you gotta trash Alex Riley like that.
Come on, man. Alex
I think that's pretty much it for Raw. So
It came
it
and it
wasn't a great, yeah, it was not a great episode. What would you give this one? 1 out of 10.
What did I give it last week? 5? I think I gave it a 5 last week.
I think so. Maybe that, or yeah, I think you gave Dynamite a 4.3 and Raw like a 5.
Yeah, you gave Raw a 6 last week. I don't think it was necessarily good as last week. So I go 4.2. I go 4.2. Best segment overall, in my opinion, was what was the opening segment again?
Global Ambassador Titus O'Neil. How could you forget? Nah, you're probably thinking of the AJ Theory stuff because that's what I was gonna say.
No, you know what my favorite segment was? Because there wasn't a lot of matches. My favorite segment was the KO Riddle stuff. I actually enjoyed that, even though you skipped it. I enjoyed that.
I'm gonna give it a 4.5. I'll be a little more generous than you. Um, but that man, that bar is low. Like genuinely, scrolling through my notes, I don't think I was interested in a single thing except for the last, like the Theory AJ stuff and the Miz TV stuff, just because it is Logan Paul. But like, I'm lost on the Judgment Day, the Street Profits and Usos. The feud, it just needs to end to me. Um, I don't care about Riddle or Seth, to be honest with you, and I don't care about Bianca Carmella. Now the feuds going into SummerSlam, like Bianca Becky, Street Profits Usos, the match itself will be good. Logan Paul versus Miz, Bobby Lashley versus Austin Theory, like those are interesting things to me. But ooh, this show was it was a drag.
It was raw as promos. It was so many promos in the show.
Well, we'll move to another less than stellar performance from our Wednesday night programming, AEW Dynamite. And boy, this went up like a plane and crashed like Ric Flair was on it. We start out hot again. I don't know how I felt about this being the opening segment, but this was a good match to me. We started out with Brody King versus Darby Allin. Match started quick, typical Darby dive. This match was pretty much one sided Brody King, but it should have been that way. I mean, he threw him around, jumped on him, slapped him around. He massacred him. This is exactly what Wardlow versus Orange Cassidy should have
I
been.
was just about to say that. I was just about to say that. He massacred Darby. I wanted to hate this match, but Darby he got the bejesus beat out of him by Brody, and it was great, man. He was just tossing him around barricade to barricade, and then the ending. That does is that Brody's finish? I never noticed that was his finish. That finish was nasty.
You talking about the Gonzo bomb?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
it
that was
was
the nastiest pile
disgusting.
driver I've ever seen.
This was I'm not going to say it was like a great wrestling match, but it was a good match and it was very interesting. And this is what it should have been. I like Darby a lot, but let's be honest here. You really think Darby Allin is going to beat up Brody King? And he got a few spots in here and there. What he did though was not insulting to my like eye test of okay, this is what this guy could do. Other than there, I think he did a sunset flip that kind of bothered me. But
Oh yeah, yeah.
there was one moment he like tied I think it was his belt around Brody's feet, and that like tripped him up. So then he was able to drag him out, and he didn't like help him drag him. You could see like Darby was struggling to try and pull him out the ring, and then he got on top of him. It's little stuff like that. This was a fight. This was not a wrestling match. This was a fight, and Brody King beat the piss out of Darby Allin, and Darby did what he could, but obviously it's not enough.
Darby was a bumping machine too. He got ragdoll. He made it look great. And it's what you if you saw Darby Allin in a bar pick a fight with a guy like Brody King, what do you expect is going to happen? and it was booked like that. That's how it should have been booked with Wardlow last week.
Yep. And Darby's so good to me. Like, yeah, he's the same size as Orange Cassidy. Yeah, he's the same size as Adam Cole, but he does not try and be more than he is.
No,
Even when he fought Billy Gunn, who I would say is not like probably even a mid carder in AEW, he still took these same kind of bumps. Everything he does is with like full energy. He devotes everything in his body to whatever he's doing. And this was great. This is a good way to open Dynamite.
definitely so. Hot start. I love that.
Yeah. So after this, Brody started to beat up Darby after the match, and Sting comes down and goes to save Darby. He was not walking with any oomph in his. He just was casually strolling down there,
He wasn't in no hurry.
and he goes to save Darby, and him and Brody kind of get into it, and he gets Brody in the Scorpion Deathlock. Lights go out. Malachi appears in the ring, and from what you could tell from the announcers, and you could hear kind of a boom in the ring, I think Sting still went through with the Scorpion Death Drop, but then Malachi spits the mist in Sting's face. Brody gets up and gets him in a chokehold, and then Miro's music hits, and he comes down and just kind of stares at him. And I don't know if you noticed, but one of his sunglasses lens was a different color than the other one.
Yes.
I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I thought it was at least noteworthy.
Is that like a fashion statement, or is that supposed to mean something? I was a little lost on that, but I'm intrigued by the Malachi stuff with Darby. I'm intrigued by that.
Yeah. They're both darker characters. I won't say like they're similar because, Malachi's thing is more cultish and Darby's thing is more like free spirit ish, I would say, kind of like Jeff. But Miro is kind of interesting to me. I thought the sunglasses may have been a play on the fact that like Malachi has the one dark side of his face and the one light side. But I could be reading into that too much. I don't know.
Oh, you could be right. Could be right.
But overall, I thought this was a good way to start the show. This is probably the best thing I've seen Brody King in, and this is the most interest I've had in the House of Black since probably Malachi debuted, considering they've been in this like 6 month long trudge with the Lucha Brothers or Death Triangle. Then I just didn't care for that.
Where was? Isn't Julia Hart a part of that? What happened to her?
Yeah.
Was
And
she
where's
there?
Buddy Matthews?
I saw something that said that he was in Australia back home for some reason. I don't know. But Julia
Mm.
Hart just joined. Where's she at?
Yeah. She was on Dark, I'm pretty sure, this past week. So I don't know where she was.
She couldn't pop up.
I can't answer that one for you. But next up, we have a backstage segment with Ricky Starks and Cole Carter. Cole Carter was back there with Tony Schiavone. Cole Carter is formerly known as Troy Donovan or Two Dimes from NXT 2.0. He got released, 30 days ago, maybe?
Yeah, he was just on NXT TV. He was a big part of the storylines on NXT TV. They killed him off in storyline.
Yeah. Well, they killed him off by saying that he was swimming with the fishes. And Starks kind of made a joke about that, saying that he was swimming with the fishes, but now he's swimming with the sharks here in AEW. And Cole was kind of weird on the mic. It just came off a little to me.
Can I interject?
Yeah, go ahead.
Why why did this guy get a why did he get a marquee spot on Dynamite? What was the point of that? They got plenty of guys in the back that they never use, but you snatch a guy off NXT TV to just put him in there with Ricky Starks, one of your fastest rising stars. What was the point of this? Why use two dimes? And it goes back to Tony Khan's obsession with NXT guys. What is up with Tony Khan and NXT guys? This is supposed to be an alternative. Yet he uses nothing but old WWE guys and old NXT guys. And I know you want to say that, oh, well, they have TV exposure. Who cares? Build your own stars up. That's why you're never going to get past 900,000 people. You always got the same old 900,000 people because you don't make new stars. You use the same recycled stars that we've seen on WWE TV for years. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. We'll talk about this more towards the end of Dynamite because I really got thinking about a few things like that. The Cole Carter signing does not bother me because they didn't throw up the All Elite graphics. I think it's just a per appearance thing. But the fact that he's on Dynamite when you have already a enormous roster, like a bigger roster than you would ever need, and you already don't use half of them, and you already put guys on TV that don't need to be on TV compared to other guys. Is this really, like, I understand, getting Ricky Starks a quick win. Could Ricky not have fought, I don't know, John Silver or, Evil Uno? I mean, and I'm not even saying the Dark Order necessarily deserves to be on the show, but there's a lot of other guys you could have picked in this spot instead of some random guy from NXT 2.0. Like do more people, answer me this in your mind? Do you really think more people know Troy Donovan than John Silver?
No, no, not
Exactly.
that audience. Not that audience.
And so that's my point. I understand if you want to sign them to like a developmental deal or a per appearance and put them on Dark, but put them on Dynamite, really? And we'll talk more about it when we get to the match too. But
Okay, okay. Because I got a lot to say about that match.
yeah. Next up, we had the AEW World Champion. Keep that in mind here, and the Ring of Honor Pure Champion, Jon Moxley and Wheeler Yuta versus the Best Friends. We said it earlier. I'll say it again. You've got AEW World Champion Jon Moxley in the middle of this card fighting nobodies. Does anybody really care about the Best Friends? Yeah, you know what? Matter of fact, what we were just saying, why don't you pull Trent Beretta out of this and make Trent Beretta fight Ricky Starks in that match? I would have rather seen that, I think, than to see Jon Moxley involved with this.
This is where the show took a downturn. This is where it nosed right here. You got your champion in there with a mid-carder at best in the middle of the show. Why are you treating Jon Moxley like this? He's one of the biggest stars you have on this show. And yet he's tagging with Wheeler Yuta against the Best Friends.
It's not even Yuta that bothers me so much in this because I feel like they have done a good enough job of elevating Wheeler Yuta.
It bothers me.
But like, this was a competitive match against Trent Beretta and Chuck Taylor. Who, if this was Roppongi Vice, okay, maybe, but Chuck Taylor and
A guy they wanted to release a couple weeks ago, all online. Like everybody wanted Chuck Taylor gone.
this is just ridiculous. I wrote that I was not interested in this for the same reason I didn't want to see Orange Cassidy versus Wardlow last week. The AEW World Champion is involved with the comedy show. The AEW TNT Champion is involved with the comedy show. Why? Trent Beretta, I think, at least has potential. There's no reason for Chuck Taylor to be on that roster. Why are they still paying him?
Wasted Jon Moxley. Get Jon Moxley out of the Blackpool Combat Club if he's going to be tagging with Wheeler Yuta. I hate Wheeler Yuta, man. And I'm sorry to say that, but Wheeler Yuta does not deserve this spot. He's bland. He doesn't look like an athlete. He doesn't cut dynamite promos. Why is Wheeler Yuta in this spot?
I would rather him give it to Garcia.
No, let's not go that far.
Oh, you don't think Garcia is better than Wheeler Yuta?
Gun to my head, no. No.
Okay, well, we're going to have to respectfully disagree about that one.
Come on. All right, let's move on.
After this, they ran a good package about Claudio and Gresham. I kind of talked about this earlier with the WWE Bianca Becky stuff, but this was a good package. I think AEW's production has stepped up a little bit in the past few months, and I really like this. Again, is Ring of Honor more interesting than AEW right now? Maybe.
At this point, you got an argument. Gresham had a 30-second promo though to build up his world title match. That's a little questionable. Has he been on Dynamite at all? Like in an
Mm-mm.
actual segment?
No, remember he said this past Friday he was going to start being on every Dynamite and Rampage. I mean, I guess that counts, but for 30 seconds, I don't know. After this, we had the Swerve and Keith Lee title celebration. Keith Lee came out in a Naruto hoodie, so I did kind of like that as a Naruto fan. But Kevin Gates was in the crowd for this, and I thought that was cool because I mean, it's mainstream appeal, I guess. I like Kevin Gates, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's always good to have celebrities in the crowd.
You like this segment?
We'll get there. I'm just saying. I know I dogged them out last week, but I do like Keith Lee and Swerve. I think they have good chemistry together. I think this is a good team for them to invest in. I don't know if they should have invested in them right now, considering you had, the other two things we could have went to, like Bucks and FTR, or just giving Ricky Starks and Hobbs a opportunity, not with the comedy show like Danhausen. But we'll get to that.
One thing stood out to me with the Keith Lee stuff. The way he sounds, it bugs me like very much so. If I'm Vince and Keith Lee came up to me in the back, I can get why he changed his entire gimmick and never let him talk because Keith Lee sounds awful, man.
I thought this was okay. He takes a breath like every word he says, and that kind of bothered me. I didn't think it was awful.
He sounds like a drama teacher, man.
I hate that you're right, but
The cadence in his voice, it always bugs me, man. I can't get over that. The way you hate Riddles, the way he speaks, I hate Keith Lee how he talks.
it's something about the way yeah, it's a cadence, like you said. It's a certain track he follows with like everything he says. He has to talk like this, and it's very like pompous. I don't know, but I do like Keith Lee. But smart Mark Sterling and Tony Nese come down to interrupt this, saying that they want Kevin Gates to sign the People Against Swerve Strickland petition. Kevin Gates refuses to sign it, and Smart Mark Sterling said that he almost confused him with Young M.A., which I thought was kind of funny.
I laugh hard at
And then he says that all of his music's trash anyway, so he's glad he didn't sign it. Gates slides through the barricade, and boy, he stiff punched Tony Nese.
that. He cold cocked him, man.
I'll give Kevin Gates, like, there was no seeing through that. He throws better punches than most of the AEW roster.
If that was his working punch, I'd hate to see his real punch, man.
Yeah, I mean, you can say what you want to about Kevin Gates, but it was stiff. It cracked me up seeing it. And I mean, like I said, I like Kevin Gates. This segment was a little all over the place, but it was okay.
You could have cut this segment and gave it to the main event though. Like this segment meant nothing. Is this going somewhere? Is this a feud now? Is Smart Mark gonna get in the ring for a tag championship opportunity? Why have this segment?
Especially when the main event went on at 8:46 and it's a barbed wire death match and you give it 14 minutes. Yeah, this definitely could have been cut, as well as this next segment. This next segment, I legitimately did not even write anything, but I felt like it was at least noteworthy to just say that this was on this show, taking up time. The Butcher and the Blade were backstage with the Dark Order.
Yup.
I wrote one word.
What's there else? What else is there to say about that? They said, okay, I don't get the whole Butch thing. You have to explain that to me. Is that like a being the elite stuff?
Yeah, I think it is, and I don't really watch it, so I can't
Yeah,
explain that one.
the segment went over my head. I didn't understand it.
Yeah. So, anyways, we'll move on. Christian and Luchasaurus versus the Varsity Blondes, and we'll say the plane hit some turbulence earlier. This right here is when the wing ripped off. The match was good. This was I was like, okay, this is good. I was enjoying the match itself. Luchasaurus basically beat the crap out of Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison, hit his finish, and then Christian was directing traffic and he was like, no, 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 no. Let me pin him. He tags in, goes in, pins him. That was great. I mean, it was short, sweet, to the point. Christian gets all the glory. Christian's still the heel because he's still in the spotlight. Luchasaurus then picked Christian up on his shoulders like he used to do Jungle Boy. Thought that was a neat spot. It was kind of hanging around for a minute, and I thought, and then Tarzan hits. And you see old Jack Perry stroll through the tunnel. And he's got a chair in hand.
Had a little stubble too. He had a little facial hair.
Yeah, I would like him to keep that or grow it out a little bit more. I think it made him look a little older. Uh, Jungle Boy walks down to the ring, and Christian, still directing traffic, sends Luchasaurus out there to him. Luchasaurus kind of gives Jungle Boy the side gaze and stares him down for a minute. And then he stood beside him, and Jungle Boy chased Christian up the stands into the arena, or
While
into the upper part of the arena.
while Tarzan Boy was still playing too. I thought that was pretty funny.
I liked that Tarzan was still playing. How long has Luchasaurus been
2 weeks.
with
2 weeks.
two? Nah, it's got to be more than 2 weeks.
3 weeks. If that's the most. 3 weeks. Because he cut the promo on Matt Hardy, what, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
All
Brian
right, so
Pillman was last week.
yeah. And then the week before that, that's when he called out Jungle Boy for his dad dying. One thing I want to point out about this, Micah, um, are they popping for Jungle Boy or are they popping for the song? Because is anybody really excited to see Jungle Boy? Have we lost our standards as wrestling fans that we pop for a guy like Jungle Boy? What great promo has Jungle Boy cut in his time in AEW? Are we excited to see Jungle Boy? Does he deserve to be one of the pillars?
I would personally put Ricky Starks. If I had to remake the pillars, I would keep MJF. I would keep Darby Allin. I would take out Sammy Guevara and replace him with Wardlow. And I would replace Jungle Boy with Ricky Starks. And we'll talk about this more towards the end too, because like you said earlier about pushing the young guys, so we'll get there. Um, I think that in this moment specifically, yes, they popped for Jungle Boy himself. I do see your point, and I like Jungle Boy. I want to like Jungle Boy more, but he's got to get to a point to cut a promo, and there's nobody left to do it for him now. It's just him, and I guess Luchasaurus. But it's getting to the point where it's, all right, step up. You're at the plate, and the ball's coming. What are you gonna do?
And Luchasaurus can't cut a promo. They haven't let him talk in 2 years.
Yeah. And why? Well, we're not even talking about the biggest part of this segment. Why is Luchasaurus already swapping back to Jungle Boy. This is the most interesting Luchasaurus has been. He's just been nope, Jurassic Express. This is the most interesting and the best Luchasaurus has looked in this company. And within 3 weeks now, I don't even want to see it anymore. I was interested in him and Christian, and it's ruined.
It's over, just like that.
They could have taken this and had like a Luchasaurus Jungle Boy feud or whatever, or made Jungle Boy go through Luchasaurus to get to Christian, and then had Jungle Boy and Christian all out, and that would anybody have complained?
No, no, that would have been the perfect story to tell. But yet we jumped the gun. We jumped the gun.
It, I don't even know. Like at this point, what do you even call Tony Khan's booking? It's either way too long or way too short.
Well, you call him reigning Booker of the Year. That's what you call him.
Hmm. This was, I mean, like I said, this is when the wing ripped off, and this next segment ain't helping it either.
One more thing. One more thing, Micah. Brian Pillman Jr. He's done, right? Like, there's no coming back from that, right?
I want to like him, but man, the fans, they need to turn him heel because everybody hates him already, anyways.
They have done everything to neuter Brian Pillman Jr. since the start. Remember he got that momentum after the Brian Pillman episode on Dark Side of the Ring? They completely missed the gun on that.
Him and MJF had a decent, like, I mean, it was only like a 3 week feud or whatever, I guess, but I mean, I was like, okay, Brian Pillman's decent on the mic. Now, what's he doing? What does Brian Pillman have going on that's interesting? And everybody hates him online because of his controversial opinions.
Well, yeah, you got squashed by Luchasaurus in less than 5 minutes. I think that tells you what AEW thinks of him.
Ah. We'll move on. So the wing has now ripped off, and now the plane is fully descending down. Ricky Starks versus Cole Carter. This was for the FTW title for the reason of it being for the FTW title. This should have been a lot quicker and a lot less in Carter's favor. All of his offense was in the break, and so like why are we letting Cole Carter get like a 10 to 12 minute match on Ricky Starks, and we're making Cole Carter look good?
You thought he looked good in this match?
I'm not saying he looked good, but he at least got his stuff in. What did Ricky do besides Rochambeau 1 2 3? Oh, I win the belt.
Yeah, okay, all right. You got a point. It did Cole Carter, man. He ain't ready for this. He ain't ready for this spot. I can see why NXT didn't bat an eye with this release. He ain't ready for this. He looked like an athlete, but Jesus, that bell had to ring, and we saw what he did.
No, I 100% agree with you. Like, I mean, honestly, there's a handful of guys in NXT 2.0 who are even ready for national television in my mind, and like probably 50% of that is just Braun Breaker himself. But this guy's not ready for national television. And why is Ricky Starks being competitive with him? And this is what I don't understand. I said the same thing last week. I'll say it again. Ricky Starks, the pop he got when he came out, huge. This crowd was pretty hot all night. I'll say that for this lackluster show. This crowd was pumped. And Ricky Starks got a good pop. The people were into him. He's good on the mic. He's got a good look. He's got a good henchman who has a good look and is good on the mic. And yet we're putting him in a 12-minute match with a guy ripped straight off of NXT 2.0, not black and gold NXT, and he's being competitive with him. And this somehow was not even the worst part of Ricky Stark's night.
It wasn't like it was a mid Carter in NXT 2.0. This was an undercard lackey to a comedy guy and Tony D'Angelo on NXT 2.0. And Ricky Starks had a competitive match.
It, it's just stuff like this. Like, I don't know. Do people not think, like, do you think other fans or do Tony Khan not look at it like, oh, well, that kind of makes Ricky look bad for fighting with this guy for 12 minutes? Like, I just think most people's mind, they just go, oh, well, Ricky won, so what's the big deal? Ricky needs to look impressive. Ricky's a champion. I'm not saying the FTW title is the most prestigious belt in the world, but Ricky Starks is a champion. Ricky Starks is a star in this company. And I'll go ahead and say it. I was going to wait till after the main event, but I'll go ahead and say it. CM Punk is over 40 years old. Christian Cage is nearing 50. John Moxley, I believe, is on the upper side of 30. Chris Jericho is over 50. What other stars am I missing?
Bryan Danielson's 42.
Bryan Danielson, yeah, 42. Samoa Joe, I think, is around 40. Jay Lethal. These these stars. Kenny Omega is on the latter half of 30 and is coming off a really bad injury. These stars that they have are not going to be here forever. And in the next 5 years, a handful of those guys I just named are not going to be here. And it's not because they're going to go back to WWE, it's because they're not going to be wrestling anymore. You have no new stars built up. Your two biggest guys who would get a big pop are MJF and Wardlow. Wardlow means less now than he has in the past 6 months, and MJF is on the back of milk cartons right now. So you know who I would be building up? Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs and, maybe Jungle Boy. Eddie Kingston's nearing 40, but good God, he gets a giant pop when he comes out. I might build him up too. But what are we doing? What are we doing and I say we, like, in Tony Khan's mind, what is going on? Who are you building up? Hook! Hook! What happened to Hook? What happened to Hook?
Man, Hook's been. He got Danhausen, man.
This is horrible. And like, you could have had a good feud where, say, Ricky Starks, uh, you know, say he goes for the TNT title and he comes up short 2 or 3 times against Wardlow, and then Taz is, well, I don't think I want to keep doing this feud. I don't think I want to keep supporting Ricky during this because Ricky keeps losing. Send Hook on him. Get Hook the FTW title, and you could have ran with that feud and had a good feud between Hook and Ricky Starks, built it up. But now I bet you what's fixing to happen is Danhausen is fixing to be the catalyst of this Hook Ricky Starks feud where Hook gets the FTW title, and it's going to be horrible because Danhausen does not need to be anywhere near Ricky Starks. And I kind of jumped the gun, but after this match, Danhausen comes out because Ricky said he was good enough to do another match. And then Danhausen comes out and challenges him, and he's like, oh, well, no, I meant next week. I meant next week. So now Ricky Starks is scared to fight Danhausen. Get out of here, man.
5'8", skinny, painted up Danhausen, one of your fastest rising stars, is scared of. How does that make sense? And it's gonna bring Ricky Starks down, man. It already brought Hook down, and why is are they a part of Team Taz anymore?
The way Taz sounds on commentary, I would think, but. And somehow, after that rant I just went on, this still was not the worst part of the show.
No, no, it's way worse. We are gonna get the worst. That main
The
event.
second, we'll just say the second wing just ripped off, and we're just falling further into.
Well, hold up now. We had a little brightness in this show later on. We'll get to that.
So at this point, the plane kind of evens out for a second. You think the oxygen mask drop. You're like, okay, maybe we're good. Because FTR comes out, and Is the Road Warrior pop appropriately named the FTR pop right now?
Gotta be. Gotta be. These guys are over, man.
Yeah. They're stars, look like stars, talk like stars. I can't wait for this match with the Briscoes. This was a good promo. They let Tony hold the mic. Shocker. Probably because they know what they're doing. At least I think they let him hold the mic, or am I
They
wrong?
did. No, that happened.
Okay.
I noticed that too.
Dax goes on to talk about his daughter going through heart issues, how she fought to be alive today, and if she can fight to get through all that, then he will be the father that he needs to be to show his little girl that he'll fight too, and that, nobody's going to fight harder than FTR will to defend these belts. They're the tag champions of three different divisions. They are the true world tag team champions. Like, if that can have a definition, that's FTR. You got
Yeah.
Japan, you got Mexico, you got Ring of Honor. And I mean, what more can you ask for? These guys are the greatest tag team on television right now.
Cash started out this segment decently, but Dax, Dax, he's gonna mess around and become the biggest babyface in the company, man. Like I was legit tearing up hearing this dude's story. He cut, and I cannot heap more praise on this promo that he cut. One of the best promos I've seen in a long time. Dax made me buy. I'm gonna buy this ROH pay per view just to see that match. Dax, that's how you put butts in seats, man. Dax is a star.
They're so good. I would never want to see them break up because they're just so good together. But if they ever did, I think Dax would be main event level. I mean, babyface, heel, it don't matter.
He
Dax is
has it.
over.
He
He's
has it.
been good as both. I thought Cash did okay here. It's not bad. Cash is good in the ring. Cash don't need to be the mouthpiece because Dax is. I mean, in all honesty.
Dax has always been the better on the mic anyway. But if they split up, Cash is screwed. Dax is the Shawn Michaels of that group, man.
But I wouldn't even say that Cash would be Marty Jannetty. I would say it's more like a Dax is Jeff Hardy and Cash is Matt. He's not on Jeff's level, but Cash is still good.
Wait a minute, hold up now. I'm not gonna let you throw dirt on Jannetty's name like that. Jannetty had a good run afterwards. He was IC champion. He came back to the company a few times after that. Not make it seem like Jannetty was out the company after they broke up.
Yeah, but does anybody remember Jannetty other than the Rockers? Even when he came back in '96, he was like still trying to get off the Rockers fame.
Well, he came back again in like '04. I remember that.
Yeah, see, I don't remember
He
that.
was a part of the Kurt Angle Shawn Michaels feud in '05, and he came back for like a one off, and it turned into a little run.
Okay, I do actually remember that now that you mention it. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's not much more we can say here. Great babyface work. The crowd was super over for them. Dax had him in the palm of his hand. Dax is great. We'll move on. And just when the oxygen mask drop and we even out, we're going right back down. Jade and Kiera Hogan versus Willow, Nightingale, and Athena. This was okay, and there were some decent spots. When I was at Double or Nothing and Athena came out, the pop for her was insane, and I just don't see it. That little thing she comes out with the wings looks like something from a comic convention. I'm not even trying to be funny. It just looks like some cosplay thing. And I don't know. Jade looked good in this. I really don't care for the rest of them, but like Jade did a good fall away slam, and the Jaded on Willow Nightingale, and Willow's a bigger girl, so like I mean Jade looked good doing this stuff because it made Jade look good. Being able to like pick her up and move her around like that. I thought Willow Nightingale's a decent wrestler. I don't love her gimmick, but I honestly would rather see her than Athena.
Hmm. Okay, Micah. I'll be honest with you. This is the point in the show where I was starting to get a little sleepy, and I I remember Jade Cargill cutting a pre-match promo, and remember being horrified by her on the mic. It was so cringe. I wanted her to stop talking and give the mic to Stokely Hathaway. Jade is bad. How can people still justify that she is the TBS champion? How? She is not good. The only thing that is good about Jade is how she looks. That is it. That is literally it.
I think she can improve in some areas. I
No,
don't think
no,
her mic work is that bad to me.
Micah, you can't put somebody that needs improvement as the champion. What sense does that make?
I mean, I see your point. They rushed her to TV, and I mean, they've admitted that, but what else do they have in that women's division, being honest? Like, Jade is one of the bright spots.
You're not going to have anything if you don't give the women time. Did I told you last week? They gave the women 4 minutes on Rampage. How are you going to build up people if you're not giving them time to to build stars? And I'm not talking about having Britt Baker cut another meta promo, which I cannot stand. Why is that her new gimmick? But I'm getting off topic. You can't build up new stars if you don't give time to the new girls. How do we know we're not gonna like Athena if we don't give her mic time? How do we know we're not gonna like Willow Nightingale if we don't give her mic time? But yet we can have Jade Cargill cut cringy promos in the back and Britt Baker breaking the fourth wall again. No, that's not how you build up stars. That's why the division sucks. They don't build up new stars because they don't give time to the new people.
I mean, I agree. I really cannot tell you what Athena has done. And if they are in a promo backstage, it's like her, Chris Statlander together. Okay, well, I've seen Chris Statlander.
You can predict what's gonna happen in the promo. They're gonna get interrupted.
So, I mean, I was kind of lost on this. It was just there. Now we'll get to the spectacle that was the barbed wire everywhere match versus Chris Jericho, the living legend, the influencer, the sports entertainer, the insurrectionist
The Painmaker.
versus the Painmaker. I forgot, I forgot the one that he came out in. Um, versus plain old Eddie Kingston. And I like Eddie. I'm just picking.
He he started out hot in this match.
Yeah, this started hot, and that's a good thing. I want to make mention here. This started at 8:46.
Mm.
There were some decent spots in this match that I thought were cool. I liked when Eddie started and he grabbed the mic from Justin Roberts that was wrapped in barbed wire and beat Jericho up with it. Jericho did a neat moonsault off the top to send Kingston into some barbed wire. This was not a bad match leading up to a certain point, and I was like invested in it. By the end of it, they didn't use half the crap that was out there at the ring. And I'm not saying that they have to use everything because that bothers me. Like when the Young Bucks use every single table that's out there in a ladder match. It's not a tables, ladders, and chairs match. It's a ladder match. So I'm fine with them not using everything. So it kind of leaves you open to be like, oh, well, I wonder if they'll use this. I wonder if they'll use this. But like, I don't know. From what I could tell, they didn't use but like one or two props.
Yeah, yeah. Why show the props if you're not gonna use it?
That's what, like, I'm fine. Say it's a table, ladders, chairs match, and there's like two tables over here, and you don't use those, but you still use a table or something like that. But this, I mean, I I don't know. To have a gimmick match and not use all the gimmicks is interesting, especially when AEW uses like a table every single week or a gimmick match every single week. This is a death match. use everything that's available. That's at least my thinking.
The timing was all off in this match. All off. It was a disaster. It was a cluster.
And at this point, this is when the nose hit the ground of the plane. Ty Conti runs down and starts fighting a one-armed Ruby Soho. And then Anna Jay runs down to save her. And you think Anna Jay is going to help Ty Conti or help Ruby Soho. And she attacks Ruby Soho instead of helping her. So now Anna Jay is aligned with Ty Conti. Like you said last week, I could not care less. But at this point, I knew this is fixing to be ruined.
About to be overbooked.
This has ruined every single Jericho Kingston rivalry segment of this entire thing. There's a run in every single time, and somebody gets beat up, and it doesn't make any sense. So, Anna Jay then finds the remote control and lets the shark cage. Now, I forgot to mention that. All the Jericho Appreciation Society was in a shark cage, hoisted. They said it was going to be above the ring, but it was like out in the crowd, kind of. Sorry. And when I say the Jericho Appreciation Society, I mean Matt Menard, Cool Hand Ange, Luke Parker?
Yeah, it's Cool Hand Luke, Daddy Magic, Matt
Daddy
Menard.
Magic.
Yeah.
Cool Hand Luke, Jake Hager, the world's most interesting man, and Daniel Garcia. So then the cage lets down, and Ty Conti goes over there with the key. And she fumbled the key for like 30 to 45 seconds and could not get it open. And then Daniel Garcia and them just slipped through the bars of the cage. And you can see the enthusiasm of this match getting sucked out of me, because at this point I knew this is ruined.
This was straight comedy, man. Because she couldn't unlock the padlock. So they cut away. And then they cut back. And Garcia and I think it was Menard just said, screw it. And they just slipped through the bars, man. That was
I felt bad for her. I really did. Because she passed the key to Daniel Garcia to see if he could get it, because she couldn't. And I think she eventually did. But it was just like, can you not just have an unlocked lock on there? Just like make it look locked so you can do it and pull it off. I mean, just like real quick, you know what I mean? Just gimmick it beforehand. Everything else is gimmicked.
Did you catch what JR said? Okay, so JR was saying, oh, they can't get the dang key on. They can't get the dang cage unlocked. Wouldn't it be funny if Ruby Soho had a fake key this whole time? Like, he was making fun of the match. He was making fun of the match, man. JR
How would
does
you
not
not?
want to be there.
How would you not? Like, at this point, I mean, my interest was completely gone because I knew exactly what was fixing to happen. So then they do unlock the cage, and Hager and Menard or whoever else is left in there run out, and they start beating up Eddie Kingston. Well, guess who runs down? The Blackpool Combat Club, because everybody's still involved in this gang war, even though we just had a major event called Blood and Guts. Hey, you remember when war games used to mean something?
Yeah, when it was an ending to a feud, not a transitional match to the next match.
To the next special event show, literally the next week.
Yeah.
So, they all get in a fight, and then they randomly disappear into nothingness, I guess. So then they start fighting back again. Jericho hit a code breaker with a barbed wire chair. The chair falls back on him. I think it busted his nose, and then...
Yeah, he code breakered himself.
That was a little messed up. But then Eddie gets him in a stretch plum with the razor wire wrapped around his arm and his neck. And, oh my God, Sammy Guevara, who's been gone for 2 weeks, runs down and super kicks Eddie. And in my mind, I said, There is no way. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it happened. Sammy Guevara super kicks Eddie Kingston. And you would have thought this was Triple H returning in the garden. I mean, like Sammy Guevara had been gone for 2 weeks and they were, oh my God. Sammy helps Eddie up. Judas effect. 1, 2, 3. My jaw dropped. I was in utter disbelief at the result of this.
Micah, I fell asleep. No lie. I fell asleep on this match. I went back and watched it later, but I fell asleep on this match. I woke up not like half awake to the outcome of this match. And I didn't think nothing of it. I thought I was just dreaming. There was no way that this happened. But Jericho goes over Eddie. But then that's not even the worst part. Eddie no-sells it because they pick him back up within 20 seconds of a Judas effect with barbed wire attached to Jericho's elbow. They pick Eddie up. And then they mistimed this so badly. Like, okay, let's paint the scene. Sammy was holding Eddie for, what was it, another Judas effect?
I think
And
that's what he
then,
was going for.
okay, so Eddie ducks out the way, but Jericho doesn't immediately elbow Sammy. He like kind of waits on it, and then Sammy throws a punch at Jericho, and it looks so awkward. Eddie chunks Sammy out the ring, and then he throws Jericho
Wait, no, no,
out of
no,
the
no, no,
ring
no, no,
too.
no. You missed an important part
Oh,
because
okay.
Eddie tried to do the like spinning back fist
Oh, okay,
and
yeah.
missed Jericho because
Eddie,
Jericho and Sammy were like tied up in each other, but like they forcefully tied themselves up. And then Eddie did it again because he missed. It looked like in a video game when you press a button and you miss, and you just mash it again so you hit. It was so bad. Like somehow Eddie losing was not the worst part of this. And like and then like you said, he like, you know, crap cans Sammy to the outside and throws Jericho on a pit of barbed wire, and Excalibur wishes us well.
Eddie looked so Eddie looked so mad too, man. Like he knew it was rotten.
Well, I mean, and I'm not knocking Eddie, but like Eddie's a pretty big fan of Terry Funk and the Japan stuff and Onita and all that. This was horrible. This was god awful. I I would I think I would rather watch anything that happened on Raw over this. And I wanted to like this and I had high hopes for this, but the entire point of this match was the blow off feud to get Kingston over Jericho because Jericho and the Jericho Appreciation Society have won every single match minus the first match at Revolution and Blood and Guts. Other than that, they've won every single thing. Eddie doesn't go over. The entire point of the match was to keep the Jericho Appreciation Society out. They managed a way to factor them into the match. It's so overbooked. Why are Sammy and Ty not in the cage to begin with?
That's a good question. How do you overbook a death match?
That's a great question. And I'm sure
Uh,
Dave Meltzer will answer it for you at the Wrestling Observer newsletters when he gives Tony Booker of the Year. And I'm not saying I don't think it should go to anybody else right now, but boy, Tony ain't helping himself. This was horrible. And people on Twitter are like, well, you can expect like an off show every now and then. This was not an off show. This was a bad show. This was rotten.
Bad show. Bad timing with the main event. I don't think I've ever seen a main event rushed like that was. And you, man, when I think back about this whole show, Did we really need the Kevin Gates segment? Did we really need all those backstage promos with Britt Baker or Jay Lethal cutting the same promo he's been cutting for 3 months on Samoa Joe? Did we really need all that kind of stuff? Couldn't we have given that to the main event so it wouldn't have looked so awkward? Because the match itself, Micah, it's besides all the overbooked nature of it, it was an okay match. It was an okay hardcore match. But the rushed ending left such a sour taste in my mouth. It was bad.
The entire show was built around this match. Can you not cut? I mean, literally anything. Cut time off the Yuta Moxley match. Cut the Ricky Starks match completely because there's really no substance, or make it 5 minutes long. Cut the Swerve and Keith Lee title celebration. I I don't understand why this had to be overbooked, why Jericho went over, and it goes back to the same exact thing I harped on earlier because I was gonna wait till now. Jericho does not need this win. Jericho gains nothing, and you're not building any stars. And in 5 years, Jericho's not going to be here anymore. Punk probably isn't going to be here anymore. Danielson might not be here. Christian Cage might not be here. Kenny Omega might not be here. And then what are you going to do? Because this is a look into the future of AEW without those stars, is it not?
Yeah, yeah.
And unless they do something between now and then, this is going to be horrible.
Why give? Why let Jericho win if you were just going to give Kingston the heat at the end of their show anyway? Why not? Why couldn't that last spot with Jericho just be the finish? What was the point of that? Who got over there?
I have no idea. And I saved the ratings too, because the craziest thing is this did worse than the past 2 weeks. Like their ratings have steadily went down. Raw did a 1.7 this week. Raw was not good. Dynamite did 910,000 viewers this week, which is down because the 2 weeks ago I think it was 970. Last week it was 940. This week it's 910. And I know ratings aren't everything, and I know people will say it's an outdated method, but it's the only way you have to look at people's interest in the product. People are not interested in what is going on in AEW right now because there's no stars. The stars they do have are in overbooked messes like this, or you have Christian Cage, who was doing the best stuff of his career 2 weeks ago, is now getting jabroned by a guy chasing him up the stands. This Dynamite was down 21% in total viewers. The 1849 rating was down 27%. Yes, they were first in cable. I will give them that. But the year over year, I'm sorry, they weren't down 21% in total viewers from last week. They were down 21% in year over year viewers.
Jeez.
For a barbed wire death match on a specially named Dynamite, you're not doing enough. You're not doing enough to build this show. You're not putting the right people on this show. And we already talked about it. You're putting Jon Moxley in there with the job guys. You're putting Ricky Starks on there with some green guy from NXT 2.0 who should be on Dark. FTR is doing a little promo. I mean, you say what you want. I don't care for the Bucks. They weren't even on this show.
After they lost the titles last week, too.
Yeah. This was overbooked. It was horrible, and I'm going to give Dynamite a 4.6, which is
Ooh.
0.1 over Raw, because, and this is solely because I was more interested in the matches than the segments. Like the Brody King match was okay, or the Brody King match was good, and the barbed wire death match was decent up to a point. only one thing on Raw even interests me. So to have two or three things on Dynamite interest me is saying something. But a 0.1% over Raw when WWE doesn't have a clear CEO right now and Vince is in the hot seat, you've got to be. I mean, if I'm Tony, I'm putting everybody on the show. I'm sorry, MJF. What do you want? The house? All right, you're getting it because he does ratings.
He
But
does. He add a lot more interest to the show. You're gonna make all the smarks mad at you, Micah, by giving them a 4, man.
I gave it better than Raw, but it ain't by a whole lot. This was a bad show. I'm not gonna say it was the worst. I'm not gonna say it was the
It
worst
was.
Dynamite of the year.
It was. It was terrible. How can you justify that? The booking was trash. The only good thing about this show, we had two good things. You had the FTR stuff, and then you had Brody King versus Darby. That is it. That is it. Everything else, terrible. Wasted. Booking was trash. Pacing was terrible. This show, I give it a 2, man. 2. One of the worst AEW shows I've ever seen. And I remember some really, really bad shows in that first year when they had like guys like um, Chuck Taylor all over the show, and Joey Janela, and guys like Kip Sabian. They were filled to the brim with nothing but vanilla job guys. And I would go back and watch those shows compared to what we just watched last night, man. It was awful, terrible.
Yeah. I mean, I was interested in the Brody Darby stuff, and that's saying something because I'm not high on the House of Black, but somehow they were the most interesting part of the show. The Christian stuff, I didn't like the Luchasaurus stuff, but it's decent enough to see Christian. And it's the same thing for Ricky Starks. It's at least nice to get him on the show, but at what cost? Other than
Yeah,
that,
you got
what
them on the
was.
show, but how did you use them?
Yeah. I think we've mulled over Dynamite enough, so from here we'll move to SmackDown. Obviously, this changed a lot with the Vince stuff coming out that we heard before the show. Um, the Vince stuff came out, then we hear, Brock Lesnar has left and doesn't want to be here. Said if Vince is gone, I'm gone. That was the report from Sean Ross Sapp and Brian Alvarez. I heard rumors, nothing confirmed, that LA Knight, Eli Drake, Max Dupree also had issues with what took place. So
Really?
I heard that he had some issues and, he wasn't on it last night. It was his sister stepping in. So we'll see in the coming weeks what they do. Um, but yeah, this SmackDown is probably going to pop a huge rating off of the, news of the whole Vince thing.
Give a prediction. What do you think it's going to be?
Well, I'd probably say that's what I was about to say, 2.5.
I see 3.
I could see it. I mean, this is major news, and I think Raw is probably going to get a hit from it too, or a bump from it too. But this was, despite what I said about Raw, despite what I said about Dynamite, I thought it was an alright SmackDown. It wasn't anything crazy, and there was some bad segments on here, but this was a lot better SmackDown than I thought I was going to see Friday night. So, we open up with Stephanie McMahon in the ring, and she welcomes everybody to SmackDown, saying that everybody here is a family and they're always grateful for their fans and the people that have tuned in. They're grateful for all the workers, even the people that put the entrance stage up and stuff like that. From Roman Reigns all the way to the bottom of the barrel, they're thankful for every employee that's ever worked for the WWE. And she says, and while we thank all these people, I think it's time for us to owe thanks to the man who made it all possible. and she leads a "Thank You Vince" chant, and she was pretty emotional during this, and I'm sure anybody would be. That's your dad, his baby, his creation. He doesn't have it anymore.
Torch got passed.
So I think, we have an episode coming out with event stuff. So if you want to hear us talk more about it, go check that out. It's a little shorter than this, but it would be too long to put in the weekly review episode. But I think this is everything it needed to be.
Did you notice that they started chanting "Thank you, Vince" at the beginning, and then Stephanie cut them down just to facilitate a "Thank you, Vince" at the end of her promo? Why did she? Did she just shut down the organic chant just to start one later on in her promo?
It's probably because they had the track ready to go. Nah, I'm just playing. Um, yeah, it was kind of awkward and kind of like, no, I want the spotlight esque, but I mean, I'm sure it was a wild day for her too to be like, oh well, now you're the CEO of the company,
Yeah.
run it, or co-CEO.
Now Triple H is back. Congrats. And now you run the company.
So we shall see. This I think was everything it needed to be. Maybe we'll get a Vince appearance on Monday for one final run type deal, but we shall see.
One final run. You want a whole storyline out of this?
No, 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 that's not what I meant. I meant one final.
Hold up now. You telling me you wouldn't want a storyline out of this?
If it was private owned WWE, I think 100% they would do something, but public owned,
That would be great though.
it would be a little funny. But we don't want to make light of any serious, but
Still
it,
allegations. Still allegations. Nothing
yeah.
proven in the court of law.
So we don't want to step on any toes and say that something did happen or make fun of. This is a ongoing serious situation, but if this was not, stockholder WWE, yeah, I think they go full sail with this. So next up, like right after the Thank You Vince chant started, the Street Profits music hits. It was kind of weird to me because there was no segue, but the Street Profits come down from the stairwell in the crowd. They come down, they hop in the ring, talking about, we're not making a prediction, we're going to tell you a spoiler that they are going to leave Nashville as the tag team champions, and they're in Boston. And Angelo Dawkins said, like Kevin Garnett said, anything is possible. And the crowd popped huge here. This is an energetic promo for both of them that I thought was pretty good. The crowd, like I said, they ate it up. Obviously, it's Boston. It's the TD Garden. They love them some Kevin Garnett. And then Austin Theory's music hits. He came out basically saying the same thing he's been saying for like the past 3 or 4 weeks. Youngest United States champion, going to be the youngest undisputed champion, Money in the Bank, yada yada. And then the Usos interrupt, saying that the threats against their tribal chief will not go unanswered, and they hop in the ring. Theory kind of backtracks into the ring because they don't know what side to get on because neither of them like him. And they start brawling because the Street Profits, obviously, they want smoke. So then the Profits are outnumbered because Theory kind of waited for a second to choose who he wanted to fight with. Madcap Moss's music hits. He comes out and evens the odd. They get the jump on Theory, and they gain the upper hand and stand tall over the Usos and Theory. And nothing was made official, I think, at this moment, but this would lead to our main event, which was the Profits with Madcap Moss versus Theory and the Usos. I thought this was a good segment, and this is something that I expect out of WWE that I think they may have gotten away with. When I was a kid, the show opened up with John Cena, the show closed with John Cena. There was always a concurrent theme going on to make you want to stay to the end. And I think WWE being centered in segments like they are, AEW can open with a wrestling match. WWE could too. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but those are their audiences. But a WWE show, something in me expects, your world champion or your main storyline to come out there first and go off last.
Well, usually the promos pop the biggest ratings throughout the show, which is probably not a hard thing to do since there's only two matches on the show. But still, I mean, there's a reason why they always start the show with a promo, or 90% of the time in the show with a promo.
And I don't love ending the show with a promo, and we kind of hit on that with Raw, talking about, unless it's like a Stone Cold beer truck thing, that's one thing, but um like I said, I thought this was good, and me personally, I like that WWE formula of start the show, end the show with the same, I guess, loose ends being tied up till next week. We'll move on to Ludwig versus Shinsuke. This was a pretty good match. I enjoy both parties in this match. And, Ludwig looks good. Gunther looks good. Shinsuke looks good. I'm excited for Gunther versus Shinsuke because I'm sure that's coming at some point. Shinsuke looked like he was about to win, and then Gunther hit him from behind, and Ludwig managed to snag the win here. This was nothing, like I said, nothing too crazy. It was a good match, but I mean, it's kind of a lower mid card guy versus an upper mid card guy, just building a feud for another, you know, mid card matchup, I guess. I do appreciate it though, because the Intercontinental title is actually seeming to mean a little bit more now, which I thought would happen when Gunther got the title. After the match, he looked pretty disappointed though, and told Ludwig not to raise his hand because he didn't win on his own intuition. He then plays it off, no, I'm not going to chop you or anything like that. And sure enough, he chopped the crap out of him.
You think Gunther will have a match at SummerSlam?
I wondered because it's now been what, over a year and maybe a half since the Intercontinental title has been on pay-per-view.
I saw a stat the other day, and it was like the last 14 SummerSlams. The IC title match has featured either Dolph Ziggler or The Miz every single year. And when it wasn't defended on the show. Like, how crazy of a stat is that since 2000?
Jesus. That just shows you how long they've been locked into the mid card.
Yeah.
That's horrible. Um, I mean, I would be fine to see Gunther and Shinsuke on SummerSlam. Like I said, I think that's a good match, especially with the strong style fans now. You got Shinsuke and Gunther who can both, play to that style. I think this would be pretty solid.
It would. It's gonna be I mean, if they put it on the pre-show, I watch it.
Yeah. And I like this dynamic. This was a little overbooked to me because I thought they could have just ended it, where it was. But overall, it was an alright segment. Next up, we had Ronda and Liv Morgan face to face. There really wasn't a ton to this. It was probably the best Ronda promo I've heard. That's not saying a lot. This Liv Morgan promo was way better than last week because obviously she wasn't gassed after her match in the ring. This was good enough for the build. I mean, it's just Ronda Rousey promo. Not gonna set the world on fire, but it was better than I expected it to be, I guess.
It was there.
Yeah. So then we cut to probably my favorite thing of the show. We cut back to the announce table, and all of a sudden you just see Pat McAfee get like Sparta kicked out of his chair.
You can tell they're buddies, man, because he laid that in, man.
He beat the crap out of McAfee, threw him into the barricade, was throwing shots at him. This was good. Like, this was the chaos of wrestling that I expect. So then as he starts to walk off, McAfee kind of collects himself. He gets up and he chases him down the entrance ramp, running to the backstage, and they start brawling in Gorilla. And then they get separated by, Adam Pearce and everything. Um, this was a good segment. This had Attitude Era esque vibes to me. This is what I thought of when I saw this segment. It felt real. It felt, like they kind of hijacked the show. This wasn't planned. Because, like, even Michael Cole's mic got cut, and I felt like that helped it here, where it's like, oh, shoot, like, obviously that didn't mean to happen. You know what I'm saying?
Seemed like a good segment. I personally did not watch this segment, but it seemed like a good segment.
Yeah. Uh, it just enjoyable chaos, I guess. And even though it involved Baron Corbin, who I don't really care for, I was invested in this. After the fact, we cut to commercial break. Pat McAfee is back out in the ring, and he cut a fiery promo.
Saw this now. This was
Yeah,
good.
he was saying, there's no running in 8 days, there's no sneak attacks, there's nothing he could do to get away from Pat McAfee. It's both of them in the ring. Nothing's going to be able to save him. This was a solid promo, and the crowd was really hot for McAfee. They ate this up, and overall, these two segments right here was the best part of the show.
Is it weird to say that this is like one of the matches that I'm most looking forward to at SummerSlam? A guy that's non wrestler and another guy that looks like he works at Applebee's. Like these guys, they built up a pretty good feud going into this summer. It might be the best built up story. I mean, because Roman and Brock, they haven't really interacted much on TV. So really, what's the biggest build going into?
It would probably be this, or maybe the theory aspect of the Roman Brock stuff.
But Theory has his own match at SummerSlam with Bobby. They ain't interacted in weeks.
Yeah, I mean, now that you mention it, I would probably say so. And this is a good, like you said, I'm kind of shocked that this is what I'm most interested in, but I'm not complaining. This has been a solid feud, and I don't like Corbin, but
McAfee is just that good.
yeah, I'm very interested in this. And at what point do they pull McAfee off the announce table and just make him full time wrestling? Because I'd be all right with that.
That would hurt SmackDown, man.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing is he's such a good announcer. It would almost be worse, but yet if you put him as a full time wrestler, it would be so much better for the wrestling aspect.
He was born for this, though. He is a natural. He's a fan, man, and he gets it more than the actual guys on the roster. Like, can you picture Ricochet cutting a promo like that and getting the fans involved? Nah, McAfee is good, man. And he should be announcer of the year when all the Observer awards get handed out.
Oh yeah, I'll give you that for sure. He makes the show a lot more interesting than it really is at times that it's not interesting. He just adds flavor, I guess. He doesn't sound like Michael Cole, and he doesn't have that generic WWE announcer voice that the rest of them do. He's his own personality.
He sounds excited.
Yeah.
Like he'll stand up, he'll get Michael Cole to sound excited. He's he's actually rejuvenated Michael Cole's career, man, because Michael Cole was really bad for a long time. But him and McAfee is my favorite commentating duo right now in wrestling. Like my favorite commentary team is McAfee and Michael Cole, and I never thought I'd say that about a Michael Cole led commentary team.
No, I agree. It's something about just they have good chemistry, and I think that's what makes up a good announce team. You can put JR with Excalibur, but is it going to be what it would be with Jerry and the King? You take the King and put him with Michael Cole. It wasn't the same as Jerry and JR. They just had that chemistry, and when you can have two individually good announcers, but if you get two good announcers who have good chemistry together, you can't beat that.
Nope.
Well, we'll move on. Kind of gloss over these next few things real quick. Shanky and Mahal versus the new vicious Viking Raiders. They will be referred to as new and vicious, like they are on the show 1,000 times over. The New Day,
Did you know they're new and vicious?
I don't know, man. I heard a little bit, but had to see it for myself. The New Day came out and hopped out here on commentary. It kind of overpolluted the announce booth to me. There was like four of them, and the New Day was really excited, and McAfee's really excited, and then Cole's just kind of there, but it was fine. They announced the new vicious Viking Raiders as new and vicious. Like when they came out, they said the new vicious Viking Raiders.
Yeah.
This is a count out victory. There was nothing of substance here. Victory for the Vu and Nicious Viking Raiders. Next up, we had AP and Sonya backstage. Sonya critiques AP for the show getting derailed and says that she would be running a much more successful show than he is. So he says, "Oh, is that so? All right, well, I'll give you a chance to prove yourself tonight then." And he books her in a match. I don't think they said who she was fighting, but it'll be Raquel Gonzalez later. But, um, I mean,
Whoa,
eh.
whoa, whoa, whoa. Raquel Rodriguez.
Is it Rodriguez now?
Yeah.
I genuinely get confused if it's Rodriguez or Gonzalez because I didn't know her as Rodriguez. So, but I
Do
heard that name.
did you know that the giant Gonzalez was her stepfather?
Really?
Yeah, that's where the name comes from. Gonzalez.
All right, guys, and that's where it cut for this week, and I didn't even know it until we started editing it, and I really hate that because the Brock Lesnar stuff was the best thing of the show, and all of our reviews about that got cut. But our show of the week was SmackDown in both of our opinions, as well as match of the week was Brody King versus Darby Allin. I really hate that it got cut, but there's sometimes there's nothing you can do about that. But we do thank you for tuning in. We want to make sure you guys check us out on Twitter and Instagram at Scoop Slam Pod if you want live updates if we're watching the show live, as well as updates as soon as things drop or when they will be dropping. We really appreciate you guys for tuning in today, and we hope you have a good rest of your week.